What's going on? GemMint here, new comic book day. It's Wednesday, September 28th, and as always, gonna go through this week's comics as spoiler-free as possible. Before we get into it, I gotta give a shout out to Vintage Vitamin for this dope-ass Thanos shirt. I'm gonna put their Instagram account in the description so you can check them out. Also, Street Level Hero, SLHLA.com is having a buy 3, get 3 sale, which is gonna run up until October 5th. So make sure to check out SLHLA.com if you're digging any of those Street Level Hero Unknown Comics exclusive variants. And lastly, it's Wednesday. It's the last Whatnot Wednesday before New York Comic Con. So make sure to come through at 2 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing 5 key issue giveaways. We're doing Power Man and Iron Fist 50, the first in title. We have Nova issue number 1, first appearance of Richard Rider. We have X-Men 4, a newsstand, first appearance of Omega Red, and Uncanny X-Men 221, the first appearance of Mr. Sinister, along with the slab, Avengers 196, CGC 7.0, first appearance of Taskmaster. Giving all of those away during today's show, and I'm gonna have some modern variants, exclusives, and ratios that I'm starting at $1 for 15 seconds. I'm gonna do a lot of sudden death too, because like I said, it's the last Whatnot Wednesday, and then we're flying out to New York for New York Comic Con. With all the promo stuff out of the way, let's jump into this week's comics, and we're gonna start with DC. And y'all, I don't have a pick of the week. We're gonna start doing Gem of the Week, and it's a crazy Gem of the Week, one that I never expected it to be, but let me not jump ahead of myself. We're gonna start with DC with Detective Comics. This is issue 1064, Ron V, Albuquerque, and Stewart. They're also joined by Spurrier and Donnie. I believe that's the backup issue. So, amazing artwork here. I feel like the story is a little bit loose. It kind of starts off telling us some type of story from the past, like I don't know, Greek mythology or something along those lines. I really dug what Ron V did here with Batman, him going to the doctor for a checkup and seeing all his like not correctly healed bones and scars and everything over time. And then ends up being a Talia and League of Shadows Batman story. But I really dug the artwork. Here, I want to show you guys. The last panel here, awesome. There was a backup story here. I couldn't get through it, man. As good as the detective story was, even though, like I said, the overarching story kind of left me wanting more, but I liked the little nuances. The backup was kind of a pain to get through. Action Comics is here with 1047. This is by Johnson, Federici, and Low Ridge. Kal-El Returns Part 1. Not digging the cover, but it was a good issue. Superman's back. He's saving people, cars flying off of bridges. It has kind of like a sketchy type of artwork to it. Like, it almost looks like the guy didn't ink his art and they just colored it anyway. But it has some nice kind of somber mood to it. The reunite, is this a spoiler? Reuniting with Lois Lane, amazing. You're gonna catch me in the feels every time when you do stuff like that. Action Comics was dope. I'm happy Clark is back. Then we have The Nice House on the Lake, issue 10, James Tynion in the 4th, Alvaro Martínez Bueno, and Jordi Belair. This almost got pick of the week, and it would have been cliche for me because this used to always get pick of the week every time it was out. There's been a little bit of a hiatus after issue, 5 or 6, and then even between issue 9 and 10, there was a hiatus. This is not the last issue, but man, this was a informative issue where we learn a little bit more about Walter and what this place actually is and how things work and who helped him create it. So one of those big, I don't want to say exposition issues because it wasn't like wordy, but a very informative issue, and it answered a lot of those questions that we had. Not all of them, but it did attempt to answer some. DC vs. Vampires, issue 9 out of 12. This is also by Tynion, Rosenberg, Schmidt, and Casolino. I find myself like not really caring what's going on here. I feel like after Deceased, getting these stories where everyone in the DC universe just gets killed and it's no big deal, and this guy's a bad guy, that guy's a bad guy. It's like, whatever. Dope artwork. I love me some John Henry Irons, some steel. We need that 1/3 scale Prime 1 steel statue here. Going against a vampire Arthur Curry. It was pretty dope, man. A lot of great stuff with Green Arrow as well, Oliver Queen. So it was a fun issue. I just don't really care like what's going on here. I think that's a problem. Batman Beyond the White Knight is here with issue 5. Of course, Sean Gordon Murphy with Dave Stewart. Another one that almost got pick of the week. And I've been complaining about this series. Like, I didn't really like it. But, they did some Last Ronin type stuff here with Bruce and Jack Napier. touching stuff when you're dealing with Harley Quinn and Joker's child and her wanting to know the true origin of her parents or that whole kind of thing. Then the Terry McGinnis stuff, the new Batman, the old Batman. I like old man Bruce Wayne. I'm kind of digging it. Issue 5 almost got pick of the week as well, man. Some strong books from DC, including The Human Target, which is back with issue 7. Tom King and Greg Smallwood. Here's the thing. I know there are a lot of folks that don't like Tom King. I see you guys in the comments, but when I'm reading something like Detective Comics Backup Story and I can't even get through it, and then I'm reading a book like this, Tom King's dialogue just flows. I'm into the relationship aspect, the whole fire and ice thing, and fire testing the human target to see if his intentions are pure with ice. I thought it was real and touching. We do get a big revelation. Who is the one responsible for the poison that he drank that was intended for Lex Luthor? We find out in here, and it's going to lead to an epic conclusion with issue 12, right? So we got a couple more issues left. Tim Drake, Robin, issue 1. Fitzmartin, Rosomo, and Lowridge. The world's greatest Robin returns. Yo, all right, how do I even word this? I think this is like the worst comic book that I've read in a really long time. Guys, the art was horrendous. And I'm not one to bash art because art is subjective. I couldn't even tell that this was Tim Drake. What kind of face is this, man? Not only was the art terrible, the dialogue was super cringe, uninteresting. It felt like this was a YA novel that it could have been any character, but they just happened to place Tim Drake Robin there. I thought it was terrible, man. I would not recommend that. Definitely not picking up the next issue. And the last one from DC, we have Batman the Fortress, issue 5. By Witta, Robertson, and Rodriguez. This didn't even feel like it was part of the Fortress issues that came out before it. So everything has been EMP'd, everything's on a blackout. So the whole plan is Batman's recruiting a team where they can attack the source of the problem, which is underwater. He's got the Squirrel Green Lantern. He's seeking out Red Arrow and the younger Aquaman. I don't know. I don't like how Batman is drawn. I don't like Batman's dialogue here. This story is just really lackluster. All right, then on to the indies. So we are starting with Image, Flawed #1, Brown, Prenzi, and Carey. This is the therapist whose name is Gem. I really ended up liking this issue, man. This is kind of like a familiar trope. It's almost like Daredevil. She's listening to her patients and terrible things have happened to them and nothing was rectified. There's no justice. So she goes out in the streets and she gets that blood justice. I didn't really put it together until right now, but it's very Daredevil. But this is super mature, super graphic and bloody. And I really dug it, man. Flawed issue 1 was a winner. Image has another #1 here with Old Dog. This is by Delkin Shelby and Clayton Cowles. Look at the cover. It feels very much like a Sin City Frank Miller type of book. It's about this ex-CIA agent who's getting himself back in the game. He's the old dog, needs to learn new tricks. Throughout the issue, he's kind of flashbacking to the younger version of himself, and it got a little bit confusing. Like, is it supposed to be happening at the same time, or is it just a flashback? I guess it's just a flashback, but it kind of felt very tropey. We've seen this story play out before in different mediums, so it was just okay. All right, Scorched issue 10 is here. This is by Sean Lewis, Todd McFarlane, and Steven Segovia. As always, amazing artwork here. And in this team book, you get every version of the Spawns that are in the current Spawn universe. Everybody is captured here by the Sin Devourers and the Soul Crusher. And basically, they're all trapped and need to be broken free by Spawn. So Spawn has tasked to now free all of the other Spawns. A little light on the story, but heavy on the artwork. Which brings us over to 8 Billion Genies. We're on issue 5 of 8. Okay, so this is an 8-issue series. Charles Soule and Ryan Brown with an E at the end. So I started doing a new video series called The Poll List. You guys may have seen it, where I kind of preview what I plan to read for next week, look for recommendations from you all, and try to read synopsises so I understand if it's a one-shot or an 8-issue miniseries or 12 issues. So I'm going to try to get better at that. So 8 Billion Genies. You have 8 billion people, each get a genie, and issue 1 is what? The first 8 seconds, then issue 2 is the first 8 minutes, 8 hours, 8 days. So this is 8 months into the future, and it's a completely different place, as you can imagine. Now, we are introduced to a new character. We get his whole villain origin story, if you want to call it that. Of basically, he was this nobody. He had these ideas that nobody wanted to hear him, and it seems like he was the first person to get a genie. I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically this person plays an integral role in this issue and seemingly the series moving forward. So we're getting out of that little bar that's been spared by the bartender's wish, I guess it was. So 8 billion genies. So what is it? 8 years is the next issue, I believe, if I recall. Great series so far. Which brings us over to Department of Truth, issue 21, another James Tynion book. He's joined by Simmons and Bidikar. And you know what? We've actually been on the main story for quite some time now. I mentioned in that pull list video that, you know, sometimes you'll get a main story issue, and then sometimes you'll get a kind of side story, if you will. Definitely dealing with the main story at large here. Really trippy stuff as always. Not only the artwork, which is basically looking at paintings while you're getting this dialogue between the characters, but reality is what the masses believe, and then kind of tying that in with Fort Knox and how everybody believes that Fort Knox has all the gold and really is stored somewhere else, and there's hidden compartments that the Department of Truth have created within Fort Knox. Trippy stuff. Digging the series. It's hard to even kind of explain, especially not giving spoilers, so definitely something that you guys should be reading. Moving on over to Boom Studios, we have Briar issue 1. Christopher Cantwell, who did Dr. Doom. It wasn't Ghost Rider. Herman Garcia and Mathas Lopez. So Briar 1 is Sleeping Beauty, but what if Sleeping Beauty wasn't awakened by the prince? What if he just said, you know what, let's keep her asleep, marry her, take over, ruin everything, and then she ends up waking up 100 years later. You know, she's a corpse at the time, but when she's awakened, she does revert back to her normal self, and then she's on this quest. Her kingdom is gone, and she is legend. She's folklore, basically. She teams up with this blue skin, frost giant looking character, and is trying to basically survive. You see her on the cover of the issue. That's where she is when she wakes up. So they got me. I'm hooked. I'll read Briar issue 2. Sticking with Boom, we have Grimm issue 5, Stephanie Phillips, Flaviano, Enrico Renzi. So as promised, we got the big reveal. Jessica Harrow's lineage, her parents, not only her father, but her mother. And this actually leads into a whole new world of responsibilities for her, because I don't want to spoil what's going on. But this leads into the next arc. I'm excited. I wonder if they're going to be able to keep this up, because this was kind of a big reveal early on, and it makes me wonder how many issues they have in them. But I'm sticking with it so far. It's action-packed. I like how it deals in with familiar lore when you're talking death and the personification of death, Grim Reapers. It's up my alley. Over here to Image Skybound, Stillwater, issue 15, Chip Zdarsky, Ramon K. Perez, and Mike Spicer. I'm still riding along with Stillwater. It feels very Walking Dead. It's very community-based. Stillwater has expanded its borders. What's the other town called? Coldwater. And they're trying to kind of recruit those people and bring them into their way of life, living immortal in these boundaries where people never die. Huge bomb dropped on the last page here. I don't even want to hint at a spoiler, but something that can potentially change the rest of the series moving forward. And the last one from the indies, we have Scout Comics with Mr. Easta #1. This is by Kit Wallace. Again, I read this one on the plane to San Diego Comic-Con, so I don't really recall the story as much, but it's a mercenary bunny. He's got this eye on his hand. I believe it lets him portal travel to other dimensions, and he's a mercenary. It's got like this fun color palette, but it's violent and bloody and gory. Yo, check out Mr. Easta. We did have a Whatnot Wednesday exclusive, limited to just 300, and I think I might still have some that I'll put up for auction today. Whatnot Wednesday only makes sense. Plus, I have some Comic Tom exclusives, and those were limited to 100. Moving on to Marvel. A Marvel pick of the week is getting crazy. Thor 27 is here. Al Ewing joins, helping out Donny Cates, and they're joined by La Roca and Delgado. So this is the first arc post Banner of War. So we have Odin's son Thor. He's depressed. He's brooding because of the events during Banner of War. And it ties in with Venom, who pops in because a symbiote ended up on Asgard. The Bifrost has been destroyed. So that's kind of where we are with Thor. I like this setup. Don't really love the Venom stuff going on right now, or the Carnage stuff. I don't feel like Venom and Carnage should be cosmic, even though the symbiote is an alien. But it was a fun issue. I enjoyed reading Thor again. I feel like this was another one. Every issue was pick of the week when it came out. And it's been a little bit slow for me, touching back on the Donald Blake stuff, which was a strong arc as well. Even though it wasn't my pick of the week, I still dug the issue. X-Men's here with issue 15, Jerry Dugan, Kasara, and Guru EFX. So this is all about Forge and the Children of the Vault, which is a little area where time moves differently. So if you go into the Vault, which many characters have, right? It was Wolverine, Darwin, was it X-23 as well? And they ended up being there for 500 years. Darwin's still there, and that's why they're going into the vault to try to save Darwin. Now, there's a little bit of a twist here. I kind of was like, what the hell is going on reading this? The children of the vault escape and essentially take over the universe. It's not exactly that, but it happens in these pages. I was entertained, to say the least. I definitely enjoyed X-Men 15. Gambit's here with issue 3. This is by Chris Claremont. He's joined by Koshian and Gutenberg. This takes place during the events of Uncanny X-Men 266, right, where you have the de-aged Storm, and then you have Gambit. Now, he has a new partner in crime in this issue named Marissa, who ends up wearing the Gambit uniform. Not the one that has the G-string, but it looks very similar. And we kind of learn a little bit more about the attributes of that uniform and why Gambit wore it in the first place. They're on a mission to save Aurora. She's stuck in the astral plane. It's a little bit confusing. I did like the kind of throwback vibe to it. It felt like I was reading a 90s book. Story was just kind of okay. Ant-Man's here, issue 3, Al Ewing, Riley, and Belair. In my pull list video, I mentioned how I'm really digging this Ant-Man series, and I think this was the strongest issue yet. So this didn't really do the whole back in time kind of thing. It did the 60s in issue 1, the 90s in issue 2, but I kind of feel like we're in present time during this issue, and the Avengers have Ultron, who has merged with Hank Pym, captured, and they want to store him away in the quantum universe. Am I saying that right? Is it just in MCU it's the quantum mania? And then is it the microverse? Whatever. The Avengers get called off for a big Avengers type of event. There was an alarm that rang. They told Ant-Man and Cassie to lay low. Stinger, I guess, is her hero name. So they take it upon themselves to try to handle the Ultron situation. Now, the Ant-Man of the future, which is the second Eric O'Grady, a programmed, I guess, android, very similar to Ultron in that sense, steps in, and that's where the story kind of hits the big moment. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm really digging this series. I think it's fun. The dialogue is great. It feels like watching an Ant-Man movie. It's lighthearted, but it feels like it's worth the read. We've got an Axe one-shot here for Avengers, and this is written by Kieran Gillen, art by Federico Vincentini. I dug this. I kind of really have fallen for the whole Axe storyline. I'm looking forward to an omnibus because the main story's here, a bunch of tie-ins. I'll talk about another tie-in later on in the video, but I thought this one was well done. The Celestial that's judging everyone, the one that was released basically by Tony Stark, has been judging everybody one-on-one, and you can see this Celestial appear in the form of a loved one sometimes. Sometimes it just plays out scenarios in your head. So it's kind of going through all Tony Stark's failures and tying in how the suits are, always responsible for death, and every time someone dies, he builds another suit. It was kind of touching, man. I thought it was real. They were basically inside of the Celestial trying to, figure out how to stop it or whatever. But it was a nice little one-shot tie into the whole Axe Judgment Day event. Then we've got issue 2 of Thunderbolts. This is by Zub, Izaksky, and Tartaglia. So I didn't like issue 1. I still read issue 2, and I really kind of dug issue 2, man. I really like this. So we have the new Thunderbolts team. They're the only sanctioned superhero team in New York under Mayor Luke Cage. Hawkeye's the leader, but it's kind of like Johnny from Cobra Kai being the leader of an Avengers type of team, which is kind of funny. He's late to his schedule and has to go to a press conference unprepared, and then boom, we get this Agro, the Unbreakable, which is kind of like a mini Super Skrull type of troll that the team has to fight, and they're super sloppy. You kind of get the feeling like the whole thing is this team is all over the place, and they really need to come together to become a successful team. We're not there yet, but that's kind of where I think it's going. I dug it. It had a lot of heart. The dialogue was great. I don't know how they won me over on issue 2. Before we get into the gem of the week, the Comic Tom Mystery Mail Call is in open enrollment for their October box. Not only will you receive 4 to 6 comics at random, but you're also going to get this exclusive variant for Something is Killing the Children, issue 25, with art by David Mack. You'll also receive 1 children's comic published by Scout under their Scoot Comics imprint with a variant cover by Nate Made It, And as the month continues, Tom tends to add more and more exclusives. So check ComicTom101.com to subscribe to the mystery mail call. All right, guys, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the gem of the week is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 10 by Wells, Dragata, and Menez. All right, I'm going to go on record and say Amazing Spider-Man has been pretty terrible ever since Dan Slott's run ended. It's been years, and it's been terrible Spider-Man issues, and I can't believe it. How can like one of their flagship titles not be good? And every now and then you have a little glimmer of hope. You know, you have the Ben Reilly stuff, and you have these little kind of issues here and there that are really good. This was one of them, man. This was a super touching issue, and it was a tie-in to the Judgment Day event. So Peter Parker's being judged, and the Celestial is coming in the form of Gwen Stacy. The cover art is terrible. John Romita Jr. cover. I'm sorry. It doesn't look good. He doesn't do the interiors. Anyway, everybody's on their best behavior because they know they're being judged, and for the most part, they see this, you know, vision of this person over their shoulder while they're interacting. So it's the last day on Earth. Everyone's trying to help old ladies across the street. Everybody's trying to make amends with everybody, and Peter is got Gwen Stacy here with him. Now, everything is kind of going okay until Norman Osborn walks in. Now, remember, he's reformed, so Peter's nice to him, and it kind of gets weird for this avatar of Gwen Stacy. I think that's all I can really say without spoiling this comic, but I want to tell you something, man. At the end, I think I teared up a little bit. The interaction at the end of this issue hit so hard, and the whole issue as a whole just felt good reading it. It was kind of one of those Peter Parker-driven issues. I don't think he was Spider-Man the whole time, now that I think about it. Great dialogue, great interaction between characters, and the ending just sealed the deal for me. I don't know if I'm tripping, if they just caught me in a weak moment, but to me, Amazing Spider-Man 10 was the best comic book that I read this week. With that being said, let me know what you guys read and what your favorites were in the comments down below. Make sure to check out my new video. I'm going to try to do it for a little while, the pull list. I'll let you know what I plan on reading next week, and I'm asking for recommendations. If I don't talk about it in the video and it's something worthwhile, you got to let me know. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and as always, stay minty fresh. Peace.